let's pivot slightly. Let's talk about transit. Certainly Move Colorado believes in a multimodal system, which includes all of the above, right? Our roadways, our transit system, bike lanes, PED, the whole universe in that space. And in the metro area, transit is more readily available than in some other areas of our state, although we're still building here as well. But tell us a little bit about how transit operates in your regions. What about it is working well? Where do you see opportunity in that space? And Sarah, may I start with you?
Sure. I was having coffee this morning with my partner Brian McCain and with the chamber director, the chamber president here in Pueblo before this. And I told him I was going to be over here and we were going to be talking about this. And so I said, what do you think? What are your thoughts about transit? And I saw, would we like more options? I just wanted to get their point of view. And we all kind of chuckle at this, but Dwayne Nava made a really interesting point. He said, I remember when we were kids, that we would ride the bus. And Brian said, yeah, we would ride the bus. Now I grew up in Rye, so a bus was just a school and back. So, but that they'd ride the bus over to the mall or whatever. And he says, you saw people were on the bus, but they're not on the bus anymore. They're not using it anymore. And I said, why is that? Why don't we do that anymore? I see the buses out, but they're just not being utilized. And we all kind of thought about it and, why don't we use the bus? And one of the big concerns is safety. So for our larger region, bus staying is a really important thing and it gets used. And we saw a bus staying bus go by, and it's to bring folks from some of the rural regions in for healthcare or whatever. You see organizations like SDR or SRDA that will have buses to do that. But as far as transit as a whole, or there being a realistic or viable option, we would love more options. But if they were realistic, there would already be something in place. For our region outside of Colorado Springs, for the Action 22 footprint, it's just really not, it's too costly or whatever. But in the more urban areas of the Action 22 footprint, it's a safety issue. People don't want to use public transit because of the safety problems.
And when you say safety, is it they're fearful for their personal safety, or they're fearful about the drivers of
no, personal safety.
Okay.
Safety. Who's using the bus? Who's getting off and on? If you want to put let's say your grandma wants to go visit somebody in Denver, you're not going to put them on the bus to go up and see somebody in Denver. You're going to take them yourself, or you're going to pay somebody to take them. So what you see as far as transit goes, or the delivery of people from one space to another, that's by private individuals or organizations or things like that. So we would look forward to someday down the road. I have a call after this with to get briefed on passenger rail. We'd like to hear more about that. But for right now, with regard to the options, the safety was the number one reason we think it's not being utilized or expanded.
Interesting. Brittany, is that an issue in your area when you think about transit? What comes to mind?
I think that's definitely a concern out here. I think another good point that Sarah had made was the reality of it. We do have a widespread coverage area, and it's convenience. People every day are more on convenience. What if their meeting gets let out a little bit early and they can't hop on the next bus, then they're back a little farther. And it's just people wanting to be, I'd say, in control of their own schedules. And I mean, buses do a great job of having very intermittent timing and whatnot, but it is different when you're the one in control of your own vehicle and can manage the speed. And not only that, but it's also the size of a bus, you know, going on Red Mountain Pass versus your small car. Some of the roads out here are dangerous, even in smaller cars, and a little worrisome while you're driving. You look over the edge and it's a plain drop off. So I think those are some of the concerns that we've seen with transit. As Sarah said as well, you know, we'd love to have those options, but we do need to be realistic of what that viability might look like for our areas.
Great. Kathy, what would you like to add around transit?
Well, mainly we've used transit out here for healthcare. And when I talk in terms of healthcare, it might be a doctor's appointment in Greeley, Fort Collins, or Denver, or it might be for kidney dialysis, because we do have one dialysis place. But those, you know, you have to book them out so far. You know, generally there's only one person that can be on that ride because there's only one person going. So the cost to maintain and to run becomes a problem. When I was really involved with it, I loved that we could get all the money we wanted to buy new buses, but we couldn't get any money to operate. So you can have a new bus, but if you can't put gas in it, or you can't hire a driver or whatever, it doesn't help. Some workforce out here, we have County Express, Prairie Express, and down in Burlington, I think it's Outback Express. They mainly do local healthcare, a little workforce. The one in Sterling actually runs a regular route, but that's rather unique. But they have the penitentiary there. They have a junior college there. So that's a little bit different story. And I know we're supposed to have Mustang out here that comes out of Sterling, but they've not been really good about letting people know what the schedule is. I mean, it should be on Facebook or whatever. But even with me, those Mustang buses are nice. I would not mind riding one into Denver instead of having to drive. But their schedule is like, you're in, but there's only one time in and one time out. So either you spend the whole day in Denver and you still have to go to, I think they drop you at Union Station. So then you still have to either get on a trolley or rent an Uber or whatever. What I am finding out here is we're getting an increase in a large number of private systems, like Ubers, only not Ubers. So there's two systems in Lyman that you sign up and they'll take you to Denver grocery shop and they'll take you to the airport. So it's a little bit more personalized. Just helps you that you don't have to drive. But they're booked out solid. I mean, I talked to one of them at Lyman when I thought I was going to have to go do something. And they were actually willing to come to Fort Morgan, pick me up, take me to the doctor that I think it was in Loveland that I had to go to, wait for me, bring me back here, and they would go home to Lyman. So it was expensive, but it was an option that I didn't have anywhere else. So while the transit's there, I think it's important for workforce. That one of the maps they showed last night is there is a tremendous amount of people leaving Morgan County and Logan County going to Denver to work. We have a tremendous amount of people coming from Greeley to Fort Morgan to work in the factory, and school teachers. There's no good options for them. So I don't know that transit in rural areas is ever going to be a totally efficient system because of miles and number of people and cost.
The transit network in our regions, in all three of our regions, that network is friends and family looking after each other. That's what it is.
Yeah. And I wanted to comment too, Kathy brought up a good point of the private people coming in, and stepping in. And, we saw that a lot this last winter when there were snowstorms and folks couldn't fly into Junction. So they got rerouted to, Rifle or to Montrose, all of those different places where they were able to land. So there were a lot of people that were either working for the airport or just as a contract would drive out, pick them up and bring them back to Grand Junction or to wherever they needed to be. So we're seeing a lot of that in our area as well, especially during, those winter months, because buses, the larger vehicles don't run as well in the winter time as maybe a smaller car or an SUV does on the road. So we are seeing a lot of that as well.
Some entrepreneurial folks out there as well, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah,
Some
one that
growth
popped
right
up
there.
yesterday was, I'm going to Target, King Supers, a couple other places, Sam's Club, I think. And so she took orders from any number of people, went in, got the food, or got whatever, and brought it back. It's like our own DoorDash, but
Yeah. How about that?
so.
That's eye-opening for folks in the metro area too. And Sarah, your note that the transit network is really friends and family is something that's a quote that will stick with me for sure.